Hello, everyone, and thank you for coming to the event When Doubting Means Death, a dialogue between Ali Rizvi and Omer. Now, I have to clarify that Omer is a pseudonym as we have to hide his real identity for his protection, and he will be pointing the camera away from his face. This event is hosted by the Center for Inquiry Canada, your community for science and secularism. Now, before I go any further, I want to acknowledge the other individuals and groups that have been involved in helping Omer escape Pakistan and to get to Canada, including CFI US and the Group of 5 Private Sponsorship of Refugee Program, which is a group that has sponsored Omer to come to Canada. I would especially like to welcome Brent Lubert, who has joined us this evening and is a part of that group. My name is Rohit Mohindra, and I am the Toronto branch manager and a board member for CFIC, and I will be your moderator for this event. CFIC is Canada's only national nonprofit with the mission of promoting and educating the public on critical thinking, science, and secularism. We help people make decisions based on evidence, rational thinking, and compassion. Therefore, in line with our mission statement, is to hold events like these, where we provide a venue for subject matter experts, intellects, and free thinkers to engage with you. In order to put on events like these, we heavily rely on donations and memberships. So please consider this as you attend today's talk. So here's a bit of background about our speakers. Omer is a 32-year-old Pakistani citizen fleeing religious persecution in his native country. Omer began questioning Islam as a teenager, and the same questions led him to be kidnapped and tortured as a 24-year-old. In 2017, Pakistani law enforcement initiated a targeted operation to arrest free thinkers. Omer went into hiding and eventually, with the help of CFI US, Ali Rizvi, and Sam Harris, fled Pakistan and achieved refugee status. He continues his activism, hosting a YouTube program called Ex-Muslim Spartacus, while waiting in Nepal for the Canadian immigration system to finalize paperwork that will allow him to settle here. Ali Rizvi is a Pakistani-born Canadian ex-Muslim atheist and secular humanist writer and podcaster who explores the challenges of Muslims who leave their faith. He writes a column for the Huffington Post and co-hosts the Secular Jihadists for a Muslim Enlightenment podcast together with Armin Navabi. Ali finished his medical school at Aga Khan University in Karachi, Pakistan, a Master of Science degree from the McMaster University, and studied pathology at University of Buffalo. In 2011, Ali shifted his career from oncologic pathology to medical communications in order to devote more time to writing. So the agenda for today will be as follows. Ali will be in dialogue with Omer for about an hour. After that, we will have some audience Q&A for the last half hour. During the talk, you can type your question in the chat window that appears in your Zoom controls, and I will take record of it, and I will ask the question on your behalf at the end during that segment. So with all that preamble completed, I now bring you Ali Rizvi and Omer. Ali, Omer, are you there?
Yes, I am. Thank you, Rohit. Thank you, Sandra. Thank you to everybody at CFI Canada for organizing this. Omer, you as well. And I also wanted to mention, you mentioned some of the people who helped Omer. I got to know about Omer through Harris Sultan. Harris Sultan is a very sort of a rising star. He's an atheist, a Pakistani who runs a YouTube channel in Urdu, right, which is becoming increasingly popular and controversial. So I just wanted to acknowledge that as well. So I have a few things to say, and then I'm going to go to Omer. I just want to contextualize the story for some who may be unfamiliar. So as atheists, agnostics, free thinkers, and secularists, we are all privileged to be living in societies where our freedom of expression, our ability to question, and our right to security for thinking freely is protected. Poll after poll has shown that young people around the world are rejecting religion. According to Pew Research, the percentage of people who identify as Christian in the US has gone down from 77% to 65%. That's a 12 point decline in just 10 years. Among millennials, 4 in 10 now say that they're religiously affiliated in the US. That means that they're almost as likely to say, millennials are almost as likely to say that they have no religion as they are to say that they're Christian. Now, what many people don't know is that this is also happening in the Muslim world. So in a Gallup poll from 2012, 19% of people in Saudi Arabia said that they were non-religious. So in a country of about 33 million, that's 6.3 million people in the birthplace of Islam, right? In the birthplace of Muhammad, say that they're not religious. For comparison, the percentage of the people in Italy who answered the same question, the same poll, 15%. Moreover, 5% of people in Saudi Arabia say that they are confirmed atheists, not non-religious, not agnostic, but confirmed atheists. That's 1.6 million confirmed atheists in Saudi Arabia. For comparison, the percentage of people in the US who say they're confirmed atheists, also 5%. So in Iraq, right, in a poll that was done by AQ News, which is a defunct Kurdish news agency, 7% said that they were confirmed atheists. So that means that, and this is from several years ago, and there's every reason to think that this may have been underreported. That's 4.3 million confirmed atheists in Saudi Arabia and Iraq alone. Okay? And as of 2020, as of just a couple of months ago, there's some incredible news from a survey of 40,000 Iranians. 40,000 is a pretty good sample size. Just for context, the polls that you get for the presidential elections in the US that are fairly predictive is they're usually about 1,000 or less people. So 40,000 Iranians in a legit, properly done poll living in Iran from 2 months ago. 78% of them say they still believe in God, but only 28% of people in Iran say they believe in religion. I've got to let that sink in. Only 28% of people in Iran say they believe in religion. The official census shows 99% Muslims, but over here, only 28%. So that means two things. 1/5 of Iranians are atheists. And the second thing, Iran is officially a Muslim minority country as of June 2020, if this poll is true. And let me say that again, Iran is officially a Muslim minority country, if the poll is true. Now, people in the Muslim world are leaving religion in droves, especially in the last few years. And unfortunately, as huge as the numbers are, and they're growing, talking about it can have dire consequences. We know the case of our friend Raif Badawi, who's been in jail in Saudi Arabia for years for writing about secularism. We know about many secular Bangladeshi bloggers who've been hacked to death by machetes in open daylight, like Avijit Roy. We know about Mashal Khan, who was lynched to death a couple of years ago at a university campus in Pakistan, while bystanders stood by and just filmed the whole thing on their cell phones, including police. Nobody did anything. And this is the world that exists out there. And today we are going to hear the story of someone who I think is a hero. This is a young man who dared to question in Pakistan, who dared to think differently, who dared to shatter the shackles of indoctrination and dogma, and has paid dearly for it. And today we're here, and I'm asking all of you to join me to help change his story from a story of struggle and persecution to a story of victory. So let's do this. Omer, where are you?
I'm right here.
Thank you for joining us. This is totally our honor. You know, I know you and I have talked before, but it's always amazing to talk to you. I want to start with just the basics. I want people to hear your story from you. Can you talk just about you were born in Pakistan to in a conservative religious family. What was your How did you go from that to becoming an atheist in a place like Pakistan?
Okay, before I tell you about my childhood and my basic struggle or research towards atheism, toward rationalism, I would like to grab this opportunity to thank everyone who has joined today. I also would like to thank once again to CFI, Atheist Society of Calgary. Brent, thank you so much for showing up today. Brent is one of those 5 people who are sponsoring me. I would like to thank Amnesty International for providing me some financial support last year. Okay, now coming back to the my story. Before I go to my childhood or story towards atheism, I would like to read a tweet. It was tweeted by Sarah Heather a couple of days ago. She writes, I think it is hard for the Westerners to grasp how utterly unique the freedom and tolerance we enjoy in our discourse here. Take this a silly example. One picture of a sexy version of Hindu diary, and there are thousands now calling for the suspension and arrest of Armin Navabi. I'm sure you must be familiar that Armin a few days ago tweeted a Hindu goddess picture, and the hell broke loose. People were calling for his arrest. People were calling for, and he didn't do anything wrong. He just wrote like sexy goddess. Now look at India. India is called one of the most tolerant, democratic, world's largest democracy. Now, and also Hindu people say that we have we accept atheism, we accept a difference of opinion, and we don't believe in violence and like this. Now, compare this situation with a radical religion like Islam. Now, how situation will be in Islam if this is the situation in Hinduism, which claims to be the most tolerant religion.
Right.
You know, when I was a child in our school, in our in masjid and madrasas, we were taught that if you offer 5 times prayer every day, it will stop you to commit any sin. Like you will be a good moment, good human being if you will offer 5 times prayer every day. When I was a child, like I'm not sure if I was 9 or 10 year old, I used to go to the mosque every morning to learn Quran. And you guys will find it very difficult to believe that Imam used to molest minor children right in the mosque. I saw it with my own eyes. That was my trigger moment that this Imam spends out of 24 hours, at least he spends 18 hours a day in mosque. He only goes to home to sleep. Rest of the time, either he is teaching children Quran, or he's offering prayers, leading prayers. And if namaz and prayers cannot stop him to molest little children, what about the common people? That was my trigger moment. Then I started, at that time, I did not have access to the internet. So whatever the material
How
I
old
could
were
find,
you at this time, Omer, when you saw this incident with the Imam?
I think I was early teen, like 9, 10, 11 maybe, or maybe max 12.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was in the 5th or 6th grade. So that means that like I was 11, 12-year-old max.
Okay.
Then we moved to like our family moved to a different like town, and where I was able to get the internet access. But when I was in the village, I was reading the Quran with the translation. I started exploring Hadith books, the tafsir books, because now at that, my aim was not that I am going to go for like to become an atheist or like an activist. I was searching for the truth. And that led me to search and study more. In Pakistan, you can't get like the critical thinking books like the God Delusions or books like that. So all the like material that I had was material of different sects and Islamic material. And I'm glad that I had that Islamic material, because if anyone needs to like find out the truth, they don't have to read Richard Dawkins, Sam Harris, or Matt, or any other. Just read the Quran with the translation, and you will end up becoming a non-religious person.
And that's what happened to you. How long did it? So you saw this was your trigger moment. You started researching more. You're looking around you. You're seeing all of these the things around you that don't make sense, and then you start reading the Quran and these Islamic sources. How does it go from there to becoming an atheist? And how long did you keep it to yourself, or did you talk to others about it? How did it happen?
Okay. Well, it took me many years, because when I was studying, researching, I know that it was how I knew that there would be consequences if I will mention to someone. I think I stopped practicing Islam in 2010, and I was keeping it to myself for almost a year, almost actually 2 years. In December 2011, um, like I mentioned, I was playing cricket, and after the cricket game, I was walking back with one of my friends, Salim, and I said that, Mo was a pedophile. How can someone marry a 6-year-old girl? And we had this heated argument. We had this heated argument. And after this heated argument, he left. And I was supposed to go to the barn to take care of the animals and like sleep over there. It was winter. And when I was going to the barn, it was like 8:30 or 9. I'm not sure about the time. Um, you know, I'm sure you must have seen the sugar cane fields. The sugar cans are like really,
Oh
really
yeah,
tall.
in
So
Pakistan, there's fields full of sugarcane. Yeah.
yeah, and I was walking through those sugar fields. There was a small path, and they were waiting for me. I'm not sure, they were 4 or 5. Um, they put a like black mask on my face, put me in a van, or I don't know what they had. They had a vehicle and took me into an abandoned place. Um, and they started torturing me. Um, the only thing that they were asking was that you insulted Prophet Muhammad, and we are giving you 3 days to convert back to Islam. Otherwise, you will die. And I asked that, well, I am asking questions. Give me the answers. Why would I lose my life just because that I am questioning? I need answers, and I'll be happy to go back to Muslim, to become a Muslim. And but no one was answering my questions. Rather, they were like, "Can you see this?
Yeah.
You see, now you will see there is a little ball here. They cut my fingers and my arm. It's full of scars. They used cigarette butts, burning cigarettes. They tried to write Thoba. T is still visible. And almost all of
Tauba
my
means,
body.
yeah, Tauba means repent.
Repent. Yeah.
Yeah.
My body is full of like cuts and scars of burning. And then not only this, when they were giving me cuts with the blades, they were putting salt on it to make sure that I suffer more. But I didn't give up, but I lost my conscious and I fainted. But before I fainted, um, they were trying to break me, and they failed. And then they tried a different method. In the Western world, you guys must have heard that people get raped, girls get raped. I was gang raped. I'm sorry, Ali, I am hiding it. difficult.
It's okay. Take your time.
It's been 10 years and still I don't have the courage to talk about it. Anyways, when I gained the conscious back, they were gone. And my hands were tied, but I was able to find the blade that they were using. They left it there. So I was able to cut my ropes that I was tied with. I ran like anything. I was not going home because I did not want my mother to see that I am bleeding like this. Um Later, I found a different story. I'll tell you. I'll come to that. So I decided to go to a friend. I told him that I had like this kind of accident and help me out. I don't know if it was her like cousin or like someone who knew him. She staged me and he gave me like, I stayed at his house for a few days and then he gave me some money and I went to Karachi. Karachi is the biggest city, I'm sure you know that. In Karachi, I found a job in a call center, and then we started our activism.
Mhm. And
Now, if we talk about the activism,
mhm.
um, it was in my mind that I already suffered, I already sacrificed, and I know the reality of this religion. This is direct threat to humanity. Uh, so probably I should educate people. My aim was not to like gather the masses against this religion. My aim was if I could educate just 5 or 10 people, that would be an achievement. And then I came to know about Ayaz Nizami. Ayaz Nizami is in jail. He's facing
Yeah.
death penalty. He was arrested in when this government of Pakistan started war against atheism. He was arrested. There's another guy. His name is Noman Rana. He's also facing death penalty. He was arrested along with Ayaz Nizami.
Yeah, just to
So
give context on this, there was a crackdown actually on atheists. Atheists were becoming very prominent. There was a group called Pakistani Atheists and Agnostics. They had an official website. They had everything, and eventually it became a big issue. And this is, a lot of times when we talk about these countries who are cracking down on atheists, um, we think of it as a terrible thing, and it is a terrible thing, as we know from your experience. But it's also important to remember that they're responding to something. They're responding to a rising dissent in their own population among their youth. That is actually very bravely at the risk of going through the kinds of things you went through, Omer. At the risk of all of that, they're still speaking out. And Ayaz Nizami and some of these other people who were kidnapped at that time by the authorities are part of that group.
okay, I'll
Right?
continue from there. So
Yeah.
I met a lot of like-minded people, including Ayaz Nizami. I became friend with a guy whose pen name was Bhensa. I still talk to him. He's one of my best friend now.
Yeah.
So
I know.
we started continuing our activism, and our pages were like getting a lot of attention from Pakistani youth. It was getting so much attention that there is this hardcore radical Islamic scholar. His name is Uriya Makbuljan. He actually do a TV show. On his TV show, he actually started campaign against the Hinsa page and against all these atheist activists. Now, not only this Uriya Makbul, but there was a Pakistani High Court judge, Justice Shaukat Aziz Siddiqui. he called FIA, Federal Investigative Agency, in his court, and he said that these terrorists, blasphemers are terrorists. These terrorists are insulting our Quran, our Prophet, our religion. What you guys are doing about it? Then there is this another lunatic TV representative who is actually now in the member National Assembly, Amir Liaquat. He also did a TV show and he started like putting pressure on the government to start the crackdown. The crackdown was started in January 2017. A lot of activists were arrested. Some went into hiding. Some are disappeared. And the admin of the Bhasa, my friend, was also taken by the agencies. They tortured him for 21 days. And when they released him for the next 3 to 4 months, he was unable to speak because he was in a trauma. He was unable to speak for 3-4 months. He had to, like, his family had to take him through the speech therapies and all those things for the treatment. And still, I talk to him almost every day. Still, he mumbles when he speaks. Still.
Yeah.
And now what happens is that when they got, Bhesa, I got a call that I'll say this in Urdu if you can translate this for the viewers.
Sure.
हमने भैंसा पकड़ लिया, अब तेरे जैसे बछड़ों ने जो है ना वो बचना नहीं है. Like, we got the bull, now little calves like you won't be spared. So it is good for you if you want to avoid the torture and suffering, hand over yourselves to the nearest police station. Now, the lucky thing that I had is that the SIM that I was using, mobile SIM, that was not registered under my name. It was under the name of the shopkeeper. So I turned the SIM, I burned all my identity documents, taken out my hard drive, threw it away, and went on to live with another friend in Karachi for a few months, couple of months. Then I had, I was like, if I am living in a city, the security cameras are everywhere, the government agencies are after me, I doubt that I can survive here, because all of them were getting arrested, disappeared. So I decided that probably I should go out of the big city and live somewhere where there is a less chance of getting arrested. So I purchased the ticket. I decided that I will go to Lahore, but on the way to Lahore, I left the train and I went on to live in Rohi Desert. I'm sure you must be familiar. It's near Sadiqabad. It's a border between Punjab and Sindh province.
Yeah. So just Karachi, where you were before, is the largest city. It's a port. It's a coastal city on the southern border of Pakistan, and then Lahore is northern. That's a city that I was born in. And so you're saying you took a train from Karachi to Lahore, but you got off at the border between the two provinces. Right.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And I went to a desert. My aim was that let this dust settle down a bit, and then I will be able to move around freely. So I went into a desert. I'm not sure for how many days I lived in that desert. It was just one water pump. I had nothing, no food. I was with a slingshot. I was killing sparrows, because in desert you don't get a lot of trees. So it's one tree at the distance of like 2, 3, 4 kilometers. So in the evening, a lot of birds will gather on that tree. So just one blind shot and you will get 1 or 2 sparrows. So I was eating the flesh of them. I don't know how many days I survived there, 15, 20, 18, I don't know.
Were there other people there at all?
No.
Was there any small community?
No. The reason is people go to the the desert, because the only crop that they can grow in the desert is grams. We call it chana.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only crop that they can grow. So they harvest it in the month of March. In the month of March, they are ready. Um so and so after harvesting those grams, they go back to their villages or cities. So the desert is all empty, no one in the month of March or in the month of April. It was April when I was in the desert. So after 15, 20 days, I realized that how long am I going to survive here? So I went back to Lahore. In Lahore, I rented a storeroom. I showed that storeroom to when I was trapped in that storeroom in Haris Sultan's interview. The only space that I had was just one single mattress. And from April 2017 till January 7th, 2019, I lived in that storeroom, and I was eating one meal a day, just to make sure that the savings that I have from my call center last long enough. And I was waiting like for this dust to be settled down, for this crackdown to go down a bit, and then I will make my next move. I would sleep all day and I would stay up all night. I literally did not see the sun during this period of time. I would go to the roof in the evening just to get some fresh air, and there was a shop nearby to get the bread and eggs. And in August 2018, I started contacting different organizations, different people, and that's how I got in touch with Harris Sultan. Harris interviewed me, and CFI was the first organization to lend support to me. CFI US, they like asked me to provide all the documented proofs. After like doing their due diligence, they said that okay, we will get you out of the country. And in the meanwhile, Harris also did a fundraiser. He was able to collect some money, and with the help of CFI and Harris Sultan, I arrived here in Nepal on 7th January 2019.
Wow. Omer, was there any time during this? I mean, you're living in the desert, you're eating sparrows, you went through torture, you went through assault. Um, was there any time where you thought, maybe I can just say that I'm accepting this and I'm just going to give up and go back and get back to normal? Were you
Not
tempted?
even for a single second, not even for a single moment. The reason why is that um, the sacrifice, the torture, the assault that I suffered, it would have gone in vain if I was going back. Secondly, the reason is why I never gave up, because my whole life would have been a lie.
Mm.
If I would just, I mean, it would have been easy for me to pretend that I'm Muslim, and I would have been living happily in Pakistan, but then my whole life would have been lie.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
no, not even for a single second I thought that I'm even thinking to go back,
What
let
about,
alone going back.
what was your relationship like with your family? You know, you said that you didn't want your mother to see what happened to you. Just going back to that, what did you tell her happened to you, and did she know where you were when you were away from home and on the run?
When I was in Karachi, I contacted my sister just to inform her that what happened, and just to get to know that how my family is doing. And my sister told me that what happened to you was with the consent of my family. My mamu, yeah, uncle, he is a radical Islamist. My friend Salim, after that heated argument, went to my family, told them that Omer is no longer a Muslim and he insulted Prophet. My mother told her brother, and her brother was the one who got me like this is what my sister told me, that brother arranged my abduction, torture, assault, and rape. And my mother didn't actually she wasn't satisfied with this. She went to an Islamic preacher and obtained the fatwa. The fatwa, I'm sure you know that it's a religious ruling that does not require like any vetting from any government or any court. Once the fatwa is issued, it is obligatory for all Muslims or all people to make sure that they're doing the deed. Fatwa was that anyone who will kill Omer will go to heaven without questions on the day of judgment. Why? Why she did it? I'm
Mm.
not angry at her. I'm not angry at her. The reason I believe that Islam is a threat to humanity, because Prophet Muhammad once said that you cannot be a true Muslim until unless I am dearest to you more than your family, more than your
Yeah,
daughters, more than your sons, more than anyone on this planet Earth.
that's right.
What a narcissist person he was.
Mm.
So my
And
mother was trying to make sure that she is true Mormon. I
yeah,
feel pity on her. I'm not angry at her.
I understand. Did you? So one sort of last question about this part of it, and then we'll move on to the rest of your story. Did you ever talk to them when you talked to your sister? That
No.
uh, no, I mean in the sense that when she said that this was arranged, how is when Muslims? I mean, isn't it haram? Isn't it a sin to gang rape, to torture, to inflict pain on somebody like that? And that this was actually arranged by your family. Um, did you ask them if that was the representation of Islam that they wanted you to see, or whether they thought that would work on you?
The only person that I spoke during this time was my sister. And
Mm.
I think I'm not sure, there is a term, I think it is called Atshiba or something, that when they give you 3 days to convert
To
back
repent.
to Islam, otherwise they'll kill you. And I think during performing Atshiba, everything is legal.
Yeah. Wow. I had yeah, no, we actually had a guest, Daniel Hakikaju, who is an Islamic fundamentalist who lives in the US. He has a physics degree from Harvard. He was on our show, on our podcast, and he told Armin Navabi and me to our faces that yes, in an ideal society, you should be killed for leaving. And he mentioned the 3 days. If you don't repent and convert back in 3 days, he told us that to us, and he lives in the US. So that's true. There are people who believe that on a very wide scale. So you came now. I wanted this is a it's just such a heartbreaking story, but there is an inspirational element to it. I mean, first of all, I think that hearing you speak and hearing the fact that you got through this the way that you did is inspirational, even though it's heartbreaking and painful to hear. But you are now out of Pakistan. Okay,
Yes, I
you're still not clear. You have been cleared for Canada. You reached out to people, um, and we're obviously all with you. Can you talk about? You talked about CFI. You talked about Harris Sultan. Um, what else did you find? You told me about some organizations that actually help out, but a lot of these organizations, how many of them are? I know that there are a lot of organizations that help out. For example, persecuted Ahmadis, which is a dissident sect of Islam, or other sort of minority communities like Christians in Muslim majority countries like Pakistan. But what kind of what would you like to see, and what is there available for people who are secular, who are atheists?
Well, here is the problem, Ali. The problem is that in Canada, there is this government program for the private sponsorship. Canada is the only country in the world who has this private sponsorship program. Now, private sponsorship has two ways. The one is through like the group of 5 people, and the second one is sponsorship agreement through an organization which is a sponsorship agreement holder. When I was like searching for my options, I discovered that there are more than 115 organizations which are sponsorship agreement holders. Now, what is the benefit of sponsorship agreement holder? If an organization is a sponsorship agreement holder, that if they are sponsoring someone, that person does not need even UNHCR recognition. Like if a sponsorship agreement holder tells the government of Canada that this person we are sponsoring, okay, you can sponsor, right? Out of 115, there are more than 100 organizations which are religion based.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Yeah. For Ahmadiyya, you mentioned Ahmadiyya, there is this organization named Humanity First. Humanity First is mostly involved in like sponsoring persecuted Ahmadis to Canada. Most of them are like out of those 100, most of them are churches. For the seculars, there is not even a single organization.
Mhm.
So the only way that we get help is like some financial help from different organizations such as Amnesty International, such as CFI, such as FFRF. But for the sponsorships, we have to rely on either churches or we have to rely on like the private sponsors group of fives. I think you were also involved in one of the Bangladeshi atheists who were trapped in Nepal a couple of years ago. You guys did a fundraiser along with the Humanist Canada. That guy was sponsored with the help of a church.
Yeah.
Like a non-religious guy is being sponsored with the help of a church. So yeah, practically we don't have anything. We don't have anything. We don't have any organization, and this is where we need to work. We need to come up with the lobby, with an organization, and at least we should have at least one organization who is a sponsorship agreement holder, and that's one organization can make a lot of difference.
And in your case, the Atheist Society of Calgary, I think, came through, right, with a private sponsorship. They helped you.
Yeah, but they are not the sponsorship agreement holder. That
Yeah,
means
they're
that
not.
by any chance, if I am like not recognized a refugee by the UNHCR, they cannot help me out.
Oh,
And
wow.
the process for private sponsorship through a group of 5 is very lengthy. I am not sure for how long I'll have to sit here. 2 years, 3 years, I don't
Mm.
know.
Yeah, and then now you have the COVID pandemic, which also delayed,
Of course.
yeah, your thing. So that's once you do so, what we're trying to do here for everybody who's listening is, you know, you've heard Omer's story. You, you've seen the kind of state, the kind of things that we need. I think a lot of people are not aware about the system for Canada, where you do need private sponsorship and you can have organizations that are sponsorship agreement holders. And we do need more secular organizations that are not religion based, that are not churches. The religious institutions like the churches are on top of this. They know this, and they reach out to people that they want to help. We, as the secular community here, doesn't have that level of organization, or actually, in all honesty, I know that many people are desperate to help, but they don't know how to go about it. So the information that you're giving us is actually very useful. It's just to establish more of these organizations. And I hope when you do come to Canada, which I hope will be soon, with the help of all of us and everybody who's listening to this, if you can help, when Omer comes here, I hope this is something we can actually work on. And that brings me to the next question, is that when you do come to Canada, right? What do you want to do next? What's next for you once you are out of there and you're here?
Okay. Well, I never set foot on snow. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to run to Banff National Park and I'm going to break my knees learning skiing.
Yeah, yeah,
And after that, this is what I will do for the rest of my life. I have been through a lot. I know the sufferings, I know the pain. If I was strong enough to survive this, but that doesn't mean that everyone is strong enough to survive. I have seen atheist refugees going back to their home countries because they don't have a way to survive in a third country. They don't have a way to live and live the waiting period. They get like mental health disturbance, lot of issues. I'm gonna dedicate all of my life for the rescue of ex-Muslims, atheists, activists in any way I can. Simple as
so
that.
no, I'm glad to hear that. And I want this, and this is what I mean. We really want to, we all have the power. This is what I say, we are so privileged. When I sit and I talk about Raif Badawi, and I know Raif Badawi, he's a friend, I'm friends with his family. I know his kids, they haven't seen him in years and years. And, when I think about him, I think he is doing the exact same thing that I'm doing. He's doing the same, he's a writer and he writes about the same things that I do. The difference is that I have a life here. I'm being asked to host this event. He is in jail and he has been flogged and he's been tortured. It is such a, I mean, this is all that these people do. This for exercising what we here in these free societies take for granted, and we really should not ever take it for granted. And you were talking about snow. I did not have anything close to the kind of life that you've had or the struggle that you have. But I remember the first time I saw snow was when I was 24, and I came here and I, I ran out into the snow and I realized that I was just me, this grown adult playing in the snow, and then a whole bunch of other kids. It wasn't a good image, so I just got out of there as soon as I can. But yet you're going to. I am one of the few people who like snow in Canada. A lot of people don't. So I really hope, and I'm actually determined to get you here so you can do that and learn skiing and do all
Thank
of
you so
those.
much, Ali. Sorry
Mm,
to now there is a way. There is a way.
yeah,
To like make this happen because Atheist Society of Calgary, Brent people, these guys sent my application on 25th Fab to the government of Canada. The government
yeah,
of Canada gave the approval on 5th May, and my file is because in Nepal, Canada does not have their consulate or embassy. So my file is sent to Canadian embassy in India for the further processing. Now,
mm,
there are 2, 3 steps like background checks, criminality, eligibility, and medical and interview. So their staff will visit Nepal to interview me and other people. There are a few Ahmadis who are also waiting for their interview. So they will visit here to interview us probably next year. But in India, the COVID situation is really worse. There were 96,000 cases just yesterday.
mm,
So I'm not sure how long they will be able, for how long I'll have to wait here and when they will visit. So after the interview, I think it will be like 4, 6 more months to arrange the paperwork and travel documents and everything, and I'll be able to fly to Calgary.
mm-hmm.
But I will have to wait a year, maybe more.
Yeah,
If there is any way, like I wouldn't have survived if it was not for CFI, if it was not for Amnesty International. Um, these guys came to support me, and that I was able to survive here. So if there is any way I can find a way to survive for this waiting period, I think the solution is there. I'll be
yeah.
able to like see my dreams coming true,
I will. We're going.
living in a free country.
Yeah, we're going to do everything we can to make that happen. I know Harris is working on it. I know the CFI is working on it. I know that all of the other organizations, Atheist Society of Calgary, all of us are, we're going to do everything we can. What is there anything that we can do to expedite this process of, them coming from, aside from the pandemic? I know we can't really help that, but is there anything that we can do to help speed up this process for you?
Now, here is funny thing that I would like to tell you. The government of Canada has a program. that is called less complex cases. In less complex cases, first of all, it is only for the inland applicants. It is not for the outland applicants. And for the inland applicants, like if they have this category, Pakistan is included in those less complex cases, but only three type of people are considered as less complex cases under the religion:
Hmm.
Christians, Shia, and Ahmadis. And
Yeah.
they, if a person gets the Canada visa, lands there, apply for asylum, if he is Christian, if he is Ahmadi, if he's here, within 6 to 8 months, they get the asylum. Even the inland, the rest of the like people, inland applicants, they have to wait for like 16, 18 months for their first hearing. Like, why atheism, why the people non-religious identities are not included? Because the less complex cases are under the category of religion.
That's right. That's right.
We are Shias are minority, Ahmadis are minority, Christians are minority in Pakistan. Are we not? That's why I am emphasizing that we seriously need to create some political lobby, some political pressure, at least to get us some basic rights, and it will make lot of things easier for all of
Yeah.
us.
And we always have this debate. It's interesting. We have a sort of an intellectual debate over here about whether atheists should organize. And many people say, well, if we organize, then how are we different from the religious people? You know, that's what they do. They organize, they come together, they have political lobbies. But here, right now, I mean, what you're saying and everything that you've talked about here is just such a convincing and persuasive case for why atheists should organize, right? It's
They do
because,
need to organize.
yeah, we need to think about our counterparts in the other parts of the world who just don't have it as good as we do. And you know, not to say that we have it great here either, but you know, just in comparison, just this is why stories like this are so important. And I'm glad that someone as articulate as you, who knows the details of this, can give us, because you know, usually we hear just general ideas about what we can do to help, but this is actually useful. You have specifics. You're talking about sponsorship agreement holders, how we need more secular organizations that are sponsorship agreement holders. And then, you know, everything that you're saying right now about the less complex cases, and how there is an exception for them, and how that could speed up this process for people. And I know that there are a few organizations, CFI, a Secular Rescue being one of them, and probably the most prominent one right now, that is helping. And I think the more information like this we have out there for people, for everybody who's listening or watching this, uh, is please make note of it and say, these are things that we can do. We can actually get on this, right?
There is a plenty of work that needs to be done, particularly for the ex-Muslim movement and for the atheists who are atheist activists, or even the common ex-Muslims who are trapped in Muslim countries. You were mentioning about Iran at the start of like your talk.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what I would say is that if you take the blasphemy law away, not only Iran, but all Muslim countries will be Muslim minority countries.
Yeah.
This is what I believe. There are many hundreds and thousands of closeted ex-Muslims in Pakistan and in all other Muslim countries.
Yeah.
The
I mean,
religions are,
sorry, go ahead. Complete what you're
people are
saying.
becoming more rational, particularly the youth, and the religion are dying.
Yeah, I want to quote Maryam Namazi here. Maryam Namazi is sort of a legend in this. She started the Council of Ex-Muslims of Britain back in 2007. So she has been at this for a very long time. She's a pioneer. And this is a quote. She said, the internet is doing for Islam what Christianity did, what the printing press did for Christianity in the past. You know, and this is, in my experience, this has been, as people are connecting online with social media, with all the YouTubers that are coming and speaking out, the fact that people in Pakistan can listen to somebody like Harris Sultan speak in Urdu, and nobody can do anything to Harris because he is in Australia and he's protected, but he has the same reach to Pakistani youth that people in Pakistan have. and they're listening to him. I mean, this is something that is absolutely transformative. I had a conversation with him about online activism, and people call it armchair activism or slacktivism, that they're just sitting in their mom's basements and writing. No, this is something that truly has. I mean, look at us. You are you're across the world. You're in Nepal. I'm here in Canada. There are people here from Australia. There are people here from all these different, and we're all sitting here and talking, and we're able to organize in a way that we never could before, and that's having an impact. And so we should never undermine the power of technology in the way that it has brought people together and actually has helped save lives, and help people like yourself. I think that I think it's great. Is there anything? I think we're coming to an hour now, and we're going to go and have questions from everybody who's listening. Do you have any sort of concluding thoughts that you want to say before we go on to that?
The only thing that I would urge to all, not only to all the participants, but all these like humanist secular organizations, please unite and create a platform, in not only a combined platform, but also a political lobby where we could influence the government to at least have the equal rights, the rights that other religious minorities or religious people are getting, the Christians from Muslim countries, the Shias from the Muslim countries, the like Ahmadis from the Muslim countries. This is the need of the time. And if you're talking about technology, this is the biggest tool that we have. We can use this not only to unite, but also to educate people.
Yes. And that's very well said. People talk about ex-Muslims as, often because we speak against Islam, and there's this sort of political, in the West, that's another thing, Islamophobia, they say targeting of Muslims. And a lot of that is true, unfortunately, with the far right rising. And when that happens, people who are ex-Muslims, who are liberals, are often put in the same category as those sort of the far right anti-Muslim people. And this is it's been a struggle that we're called Islamophobic, but we don't say that about Jews. We don't say about secular Jews. Secular Jews are celebrated. People who leave Scientology, Mormonism, get TV shows and book deals. People who are lapsed Catholics have great stand-up comedy careers. And they're all celebrated as liberals. If you are singling ex-Muslims out as Islamophobes, that's the bigotry. If you're singling, if everybody else, when the Christians left their religion, we called it the Enlightenment. We called it the birth of liberal values. When Muslims are doing this in these numbers, we're calling it Islamophobia, and that is the bigotry. That is the double standard. And this is something that I hope that all liberals who are listening to this, they understand that, especially after hearing your story, especially after hearing all of this, I hope that they think twice before, or they at least give it some thought.
I have one question for all those who call us Islamophobes. Okay, fine, Islamophobe. But one question. Look at all religion in rest of the world and tell me how many people, how many suicide bombers are going kaboom by saying hallelujah? How many Jews are like going kaboom? How many Hindus are going Jai Shri Ram and bursting? And how many going by saying Allahu Akbar? Well, if the number of people who are going kaboom by saying Allahu Akbar is higher, or if they are the only one, then probably there is no such thing exist as Islamophobia. We are talking about the realities. Your religion is still stuck in the 7th century, and we are trying to save the humanity. If this is what Islamophobia is, be my guest. Call me Islamophobe 100 times if you're saying it one time.
Great. And so we're going to end on that. And at least the interview section will end on that. And I'll pass it on back to Rohit for the questions for you, Omer.
Yeah, thanks so much, guys. Thanks, Ali, and thanks, Omer. Yeah, just a very sombering talk to listen to, and I'm sure everybody's just glued, and it was very captivating. We feel it in our hearts. So at this point, we're going to go to Q&A. As I mentioned before, if you look on your Zoom controls, you should see a chat window, and it's been set up so that if you type your question, I will see it come up on my screen, and I will read it aloud, and Omer will answer it. Or if you have a question for Ali, I'm sure he wouldn't mind asking or answering a few questions on his end. Okay, so I see some people starting to type, and we'll just give it a moment. Maybe I'll ask a first question while we're waiting for the questions to come in. So Omer, what fills your days, I guess, these days? I mean, I know you're still pretty active on your podcast and your writing, but are you finding that you are giving talks similar to this, doing as much as you can to share your message with others and other organizations?
Well, as far as these days are concerned, it's a time of uncertainty. We are still under the lockdown, and I try to keep myself occupied as much as I can. I read. I try to reach out to like-minded people like Harris and all other activists. We are trying to come up with the mechanism to set up an organization or something like that, so that we can help out all the if not all, at least few of the ex-Muslims who are trapped in Muslim countries. I'm also posting almost every video every day. I have 70,000 subscribers on my YouTube channel. But I speak Urdu on my channel because there are a lot of people who are doing activism, educating people in English language, but there are not many who are actually doing this kind of activism in Urdu or Hindi language, because there is a huge audience in India and in Pakistan. So it's me, Harris, and there is another guy. We are trying to educate people, educate the masses as much as we can.
Mm-hmm. How would you say your activism in India is taken? So somebody from an Indian background, myself, a lot of the focus sometimes is on Pakistan and Islamic countries, but I know that there are a lot of religious issues in India, and there's religious conflicts that happen quite a bit, but I'm removed from them, and I don't hear a lot of what happens, and to some degree it's not as bad. But what's your findings or your feelings about your message and how it resonates with people in India?
What I am trying to do through my activism is I am trying to create or trying to educate people tolerance, because situation is really bad as far as the enmity between or hatred between Hindus and Muslims are concerned. It's at the rise because since last 6 years the right-wing politics is dominating India, and yeah, there are I'm not saying that Muslims are innocent. um, they they did few bad things, and because of those things the right wing was able to capture the mindset of the common Hindu. uh, but yeah, I'm trying to not only trying to educate them about the tolerance, but also educating the Muslim youth of India that why they need to leave this cult called
Okay.
Islam.
Okay. We have
The
our first
response is
question.
great.
Go ahead.
The response is great as far as the youth is concerned. The Pakistani and Indian youth is concerned. They are responding very well.
That's great to hear. We have our first question. So Leslie's son wants to know, Omer, why did you choose Canada as your destination instead of larger countries such as US or England? So was this a decision you put a lot of thought into, a little thought into? Did Canada just sort of fall onto your lap as a destination? Maybe you can share some insight in that area.
Great question. Now, I am recognized as a refugee by UNHCR, and the Nepal UNHCR does not resettle any refugee if they don't have any private sponsorship. Thanks to the government of Canada for having this program. If there was like, if they don't have this program, I had nowhere to go. I would have been sitting here, stranded here in a hilly prison for 7, 10, I don't know for how many years. So the only option that I had was Canada through a private sponsorship program.
Okay. I have a question coming in for Eden. Eden, go ahead. Can you type out your question for me? So Ali, maybe I'll ask you a question. I mean, what was it sort of that resonated, I guess, with Omer? I mean, I heard you say earlier, you know, that you get contacted by several people, and I don't know what the frequency is. Maybe you can shed some light on this as to how many people in, you know, different parts of the world reach out to you and your friends, for support, for assistance, and what's that like, and then how do you approach it, and then what's some of the advice that you give to them? Oh, you're still on mute.
Unmute. Okay,
Sorry.
I'm so sorry about that. I was saying the host is not allowing me to unmute,
Oh.
but now you did. So thank you. Um, I can't even count. I would say um, nowadays it's decreased a lot, but in the past I think I've been doing this for about 11 or 12 years now, and it was it was almost every day I would hear things. When my book came out, it was daily. There were dozens of emails that I would get, not necessarily all from people who were trying to get out, but just from people who related. They're like, yes, I'm an atheist, I live in Bangladesh, I heard from people in Egypt, I heard from people in Malaysia, Indonesia, Saudi Arabia, Pakistan. I heard from LGBT kids in Saudi living in Riyadh. um, I got to know so many people. I heard from a girl in Canada, right? It was a hijabi girl who said that she was a lesbian and she was going to be married in an arranged marriage, forced marriage, to her first cousin. 2 weeks from then, I never heard from her after that. It's just like some of the things that you hear are, whether it's here, whether it's overseas, they're heartbreaking. I did not know what to tell people. This was the most frustrating thing, and I think most people, Harris can probably testify to this too. A lot of us who have done this work for a long time, we get these emails all the time, and I never really knew what the channels were for them. Now there's some organizations I can refer them to, like Secular Rescue, like FFRF, like, you know, Ex-Muslims of North America. There are many different places that I can at least refer them where they can get help. And this one thing that I found out through Omer, which I didn't know, and I know we're mentioning it over and over again, but it's hugely important. This idea of sponsorship agreement holders, the idea that why are all these people coming to Canada? Why is it easier for them to come to Canada? Is because, as Omer is saying, Canada seems to be the only country in the world that allows for private sponsorship. And for everybody else, the other countries that take in refugees, if they're looking for sponsorship organizations, that's non-private, it seems like a lot of those are just religious based.
Yeah.
So we do need to, and I know that all of us mean well. I'm not saying that we're all lazy. I know everybody in the atheist and the secular community wants to do everything they can to help. I was frustrated about it for years, but on this, now that we know this, we need to step up our game. And that way, when we do get emails like this, we can do more.
Yeah, it's been eye-opening, for sure, for myself, and I'm sure a lot of other people. Just a comment from Eden. Eden says, as far as I can tell, liberal and ex-Muslims are some of the bravest people on earth. So he wants to thank you for your courage and he hopes that you love the snow and the skiing. Also from Sultan Harris, thanks to all the Canadians for helping Omer. I wish I could bring him over to Australia, but we are not as considerate towards asylum seekers as Canada. So thanks to the Canadians. Another question from Leslie. Omer, do you know how many people like you there are in Pakistan? Ali mentioned in his introduction how unbelief is growing in several Muslim countries. Is this the same? Is the same true in Pakistan? Is there a larger number of people becoming secular and becoming non-believers? Omer? Oh, I may have to unmute him. One moment.
Thank you for
Okay.
unmuting me. Coming to the question, Harris is here, Ali is here. As the, I mean, Harris can tell you that yes, there are. He's receiving dozens of emails on daily basis. Particularly the youth, they are going away from the religion. And as I mentioned, that if the only thing that people that is stopping all these people is that blasphemy laws. Still, there are 13 countries, 13 Muslim countries where there is a death penalty for apostasy and for blasphemy. If we take these blasphemy laws away, all Muslim majority countries will eventually end up becoming Muslim minority countries. I can't give you the number that how many closeted ex-Muslims are in Pakistan, but I can assure you that it's in thousands, if not in millions.
Yeah, it makes sense, right? Because of these laws, you never know, because so many people could be closeted. They might not even dare to share this information with their closest friend or their relative. And you're right there. So there's really no way. But just the census, I guess, from your writings, from your interactions, is that this number is very large and it's growing.
It is.
Yeah. Okay. I'm just going to give 1 or 2 more minutes for any other last minute questions that come through. And just in case you didn't know, I just wanted to let everyone know that we appreciate Omer coming on, and especially for the time difference. Omer told me that he was awake at 4 a.m. and 5 a.m., 4 a.m. And yeah, he's probably pretty tired, most likely. So we won't keep him on for too long. Ali, I see your hand up. I guess you're muted. I'm not. You should be able to unmute yourself. Let me just do it here. Oh. Go ahead.
I just wanted to add to that, because I think that this is something that I follow very closely in terms of what Omer is saying. I absolutely agree with him. I think that the number of atheists in Pakistan is probably through the roof. When he talked about the crackdown on atheists, and this is something that's happening everywhere, the Iranian clergy has said that the clerical leadership there has said that there's a tsunami of atheism in their country, and they're cracking down on it. Saudi Arabia declared atheism a terrorist offense in 2014. Pakistan had this whole crackdown on atheists on social media. They were actually identifying atheists from friend lists of people in Facebook, including myself. So many of my atheist friends from Pakistan had to delete me from their friend list, because that's how they were identifying them. And these crackdowns they're a symptom of something. I mean, they're obviously terrible, but they are a symptom of something. They're a reaction to something. Pakistan also has a history of, there were many, my uncle's generation, for instance, my father's generation, they came from, the Marxism was a very big thing there. So secularism isn't alien to it. There are a lot of secular poets, there's a lot of secular literature as well. So there is also that tradition that's been going down. So I would estimate, if Saudi Arabia has over 1.6 million confirmed atheists as of 2012, almost 8 years ago, probably underreported. I would say that, just by extrapolating in Pakistan, the number of atheists is probably well into the millions. This is a country of, I think, 300 million people or more. So it's a very, very big thing, atheism in the Muslim world right now.
Omer, a question has come in for you. Omer, you mentioned your mother helped set up the arrangement to punish you or bring you back into the religion. This showed her blind indoctrination within her society. What are your thoughts about women being educated and empowered enough to find a more stable, rational position in Pakistan's society as a long-term solution to future generations get away and how to get away with the violence of Islamic fundamentalism?
As far as the women are concerned, if we look closely at the impact of religion on women in conservative or religious countries, I think religions have thrown women into the darkness where it will take uh, decades for them to get out of that. Um, I'll add this that the women, girls, they are the most affected uh, like side of the gender because of the religion. In Muslim societies, the problem is the majority of the girls don't even realize that what are they being deprived of. Why? Because they don't get any formal education. Islam is against formal education. Like women are even, it will come as a surprise to you that a woman, her testimony is not accepted in the court of law if there are not two. If it is a single woman going to testify something in the court, it's not admissible. It's not admissible. So yeah, we, Harris and I and all other activists are trying our level best to educate these girls through. But I don't see a clear roadmap that how we would be able to do that. But we are trying what we could.
Do you think though that the education and empowerment, the women finding now being allowed to work more, earn income, do you think though that this will help the problem of indoctrination and violence against future generations to help break the cycle?
I think it will, but it will take some time.
Mhm.
The impact won't be that much the way we are hoping or the way we are anticipating, because the still the majority of the women in these countries, Pakistan, India, they are confined to their kitchens. I'll give you one example that 85,000 MBBS girls are sitting in their home waiting for getting a good marriage proposal. They are not even practicing. So imagine what would be the situation for middle class or lower class like family girls.
Right. Okay.
And access to the access the one thing that is important is access to information, and unfortunately they are still, the majority of the girls are deprived uh, of access to the information, internet, books.
You know, it's interesting you say that though, and maybe this is a topic for another time. Um, but you know, and I've heard this before about the education of women being needed to overcome this. And there's a interesting thing that happens though. But even in the West, you know, and I'm sure Ali knows this as well. We've briefly spoke on this in the past that you know we find that in the West, women are very much so educated, and you know there's a lot of women Muslim apologists as well, right? And so it's going to be interesting to see what happens in that respect as far as the education of women. Will they use it for freedom, for free thinking, critical thinking, to break the cycle, or is it that somehow it just deepens their roots to the religion and they somehow find another path towards it? So did you want to comment on that, Ali? Let me unmute you. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I can say I think that education is a good start, but you're absolutely right. Like the women in the U.S. actually have higher average education levels, and they have higher rates of having degrees, professional degrees, and even gender parity in terms of education and professional and profession and earning power than the average white American. So, but they still tend to be a lot of times the apologist attitudes, the fundamentalist attitudes still stay. So a lot of this, I think, has to do with having exposure to other ideas. indoctrination is a very hard thing to get over. I mean, you have secular Jews who haven't practiced religion for the longest time, but they're still engaging in genital mutilation. Like the science is clear on it. There's absolutely no, there's no medical organization in the world that recommends male circumcision as medically necessary. Like we know that now, but there are even people, Muslims and Jewish people who become very, very secular, they still tend to stick to those traditions. So those traditions die hard. I mean, it's very, very insidious and very deeply entrenched, religious dogma and religious practice in people. So
yeah, and John has made a good comment. Who asked the question? He's saying, considering that we have had women prime ministers in Pakistan, Bangladesh, and India, right? So all fairly Muslim-dominated countries, and the leaders of those countries have been women at one point, and still we're in this situation. So it's a good point to bring up, John. I think I'm going to have one more question. And Omer, this is to you, but Ali, if you've got input, feel free to chime in, because I don't know if Omar has the answer to this question. What precautions will Omer have to take when he arrives in Canada? Will there still be risks of retaliation from the Muslim community?
So I guess, yeah, I'll probably start with that. I have good news. The good news is that ever since I've been doing this, I used to get death threats all the time. My partner used to get death threats all the time, as little as 5-6 years ago. But recently that has dropped to a large extent. The ex-Muslim movement has grown, and I don't think, some people don't like acknowledging that because they feel it diminishes the kind of experiences that people like Omer are going through, and even people here in Canada are going through. And that's not my intention to do that. I know that these problems are real, but if we don't acknowledge the success, then all of our efforts are in vain. But we have achieved a lot. I'll say about 30 years ago, Salman Rushdie had to go into hiding for 10 years, right? In a Western country. Today, we're having shows like this. We're doing it openly. I have a book out. Omer is out here speaking. We're hosting him. There are podcasts, there are conferences, there are organizations where ex-Muslims are really, really rising up and talking. There are YouTube channels like Haris Sultan's channel. There's so much that we have achieved, and there's so much desensitization. I mean, I remember the first time the Danish cartoons came of Muhammad. It was so shocking to see them. I had never seen anything like that before, and that was in 2006. And then Charlie Hebdo happened, and now there is they republished the cartoons, and it's a very different time. And I mean, the best thing about it, and it's the last thing I'll say, is people think of this as a bad thing. There's factionism now in the ex-Muslim community. Like some people say, well, there's Shia ex-Muslims versus Sunni. No, but there are factions. There are progressive ones. There are people, conservative, liberals, and they disagree with each other. And people say that's a bad thing. There's no, that's a sign of growth. That's a sign of growth when you have ideological diversity within a minority within a minority. That means that we have grown. That means that people are speaking out. So I think that Omer, when he comes here, you will have a lot to look forward to. Of course, you have to be vigilant. You have to, and when he comes here, we're going to talk to you. I'm sure we're going to hang out a lot, and we will discuss our experiences and try to help you, adjust to it and learn the reality here as much as we possibly can. But I think that the story is going to have a very, very happy ending. I'm not going to say inshallah.
Yeah. And actually that ties in perfectly with our last question, and that's to you, Omer, and this comes from Harris. Omer, are you hopeful that Pakistan will eventually change if we all collectively work hard in spreading secular ideas? I know it may seem like a big goal, but are you optimistic, and do you think Pakistan can head there?
The only thing which is stronger than fear is hope. And hope was the thing which kept me going throughout my struggle. As far as the Pakistan is concerned, I'm very hopeful. If we will continue our activism, if we will focus on reaching out to youth, I believe that there is a hope there. We will be, if not us, but our upcoming generation will see a secular rising Pakistan. And I will say, inshallah. Yeah, there
Excellent.
is a hope.
Go ahead.
There is a hope.
I think there needs to be. Yeah. So I wanna thank everybody. Now before we leave, I do want to thank Omer and Ali. To Omer, continue to be brave in these times. Your courage lays the foundation for transformation. And I want to thank all of you, our audience members, for donating. I don't want to say that it makes a difference, because the truth is, it is the difference. Without your support, there is nothing, and Omer will continue to need support for the next 12 or more months. So please consider donating. Monthly donations are especially helpful. Every dollar you donate goes directly to the fund, and CFIC is absorbing the merchant fees associated with your donation. And in a moment, I'm going to post all the links in the chat, so you'll have the access to go and donate. Now, as I mentioned at the beginning, CFIC is Canada's only national nonprofit for science and free thought. And while donations are extremely helpful, we really value memberships. As a member, you not only get access to these great events, but more importantly, you join a movement with over 300 members, where our voices of reason get stronger and more influential. As we grow in numbers, so does our influence with government decision makers and the public opinion that guides them. We advocate for evidence-based decisions on government policy, healthcare, public education, and human rights. If concerns like climate change, blasphemy laws, education curriculums, medical pseudoscience are important to you, please become a member of CFIC. Myself, like most of you, are supporters of free thought, critical thinking, and skepticism. And when I discovered all this, it has brought such joy to my life. But when I learned that people's lives are affected and even decided based on questioning beliefs, and they cannot openly experience the journey that I had, that's when I became a CFIC member and a volunteer. And you can purchase a membership from our website at centerforinquiry.ca. And if you'd like to volunteer with CFIC, you can sign up on our website. There are many open positions to choose from. And so what I'm going to do at this time right now is copy the links, and you should have all the information that you're going to need. In a moment. So I've just posted the link where you can directly donate to Omer, or you can become a CFIC member, where you can get involved in volunteering, where you can see a calendar of CFIC's upcoming events and our partners events, which we post as well, and a link to our YouTube channel where our previous events have been posted and where this one will be posted in the next few days. So with that, I would like to thank Omer and Ali again. And also I want to say thanks to the folks from Calgary who are part of the refugee sponsorship program of Omer. I want to thank everybody and have a good night. And before I do, I'm going to actually unmute everybody all at once. And if we can give a collective round of applause to Omer for being brave and sharing his story with us, and for Ali and his time and his hard work in the movement, I think they would appreciate it. So I've gone ahead and unmuted everybody. Share your video and just give a collection of applause.
Thank you, Omer.
Thank you, Omar.
Thank you, everybody, and we'll see you at the next event.